the Honorable Chairman starts sharing the valuable insight, I would like to request Sonia ma'am to please take the lead and set the context of this webinar. But at the same point of time, I would also like to inform all the viewers that you all are welcome to ask any kind of question that you would like to ask here. In case if you have any, you please put it in the Q&A box, and we will take up all those questions during the webinar. So let's start. Let's get started, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Bharat. And friends, a very good afternoon to all of you and wish you all a very happy new year. Welcome to the ROI show. This is a session that we have split into 3 series. So today is a third series that we are conducting. And this webinar, the 3 series have been focusing on the return on the investment, which is a very important parameter for any prospective business buyer like you who's considering to invest in any given opportunity across all industries. So we bring you insights on the calculation for ROI, the metrics and the factors, and also most importantly, the events that you should consider when you calculate your ROI on any business opportunity. So the 3 sessions, including the one that we did day before, we took you through the entire ROI spectrum, the factors which influence the ROI. Yesterday, we talked about different franchise models from franchisee-owned, franchisee-operated to franchisee-owned, company-operated to build, operate, transfer business models. Today, we'll talk about the legal considerations in any franchisor-franchisee agreement. And just to quickly recap on the factors to influence ROI, we talked about the initial investment cost. We talked about the revenue generation, which is the ability of any investment that you do to generate revenue significantly impacts ROI. Third was the operational efficiency, which is the efficient operations that can help franchise partner to lower the cost and boost the profitability of the operations. And couple of things where the 2 main aspects for performance of any business in terms of ROI, we split that into 2 parts, which is one on the personal front and one on the business front, which grossly impacts the return on the investment of a business opportunity. So on the business front, we talked about 5 things. We talked about the lifetime value of the opportunity. The second thing that we talked about was the industry the business operates in, which means the relevance of the business in the next 5 to 10 years to 20 years. So which means that how future fit is the business that you've taken. Third, we talked about the market fitment, which means is the market right? Is there a demand for that particular product or a service in your market for that business? The fourth area was cost of capital, which includes loans, debt, which any franchisee takes to invest in a business. And the fifth area under business we covered was inflation, which is the cost of your input, the raw material stock, and also the escalation of these costs like salaries, rent over a period of the life of that particular business. And on the personal front, we talked about the 3 areas, which is the risk-taking appetite for a prospective franchisee. The second was alignment of your financial goal and your business goal, which is split into short-term, mid-term, and long-term. And we talked about the investment horizon overall for the opportunity. Today, we'll talk about the legal considerations. And at Franchise India, we have worked with few thousand companies, global companies, Indian companies, to help them also develop this framework on the legal structure for an agreement. And we believe that franchise relationship is a very delicate balance between the control and independence. So before we get started with the presentation, I'll also request Mr. Maria to take over and set a perspective. And friends, if you need the recordings of the last 2 webinars, please write to us. We'll be happy to share you a link of the last 2 sessions that we conducted yesterday and the day before. Over to you.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Sonia. Welcome, friends, and welcome to this very special webinar. And I also should congratulate each one of you because you're coming on 31st Eve and where we're moving into a new year, and you decided to be part of this business webinar, and which means that you are serious about taking your steps towards starting your entrepreneurial journey. And this is why we kept this ROI show, because we feel that people have to really go through a little bit of knowledge before they invest into any business. So before we get into the legal part of the business, I'll summarize a few things. If you are looking to start your business, the first step you need to do is self-evaluate yourself. Because if you don't self-evaluate yourself, that where are you coming from, you'll never be able to make the right decision. So how do you develop, self-evaluate? First, you define yourself between these 3 things. One, are you an investor? Just an investor, which means that you're just bringing capital. Second, are you an operator plus investor, which means that you not only just bring in the capital, but you also operate the business. And third, are you an investor plus operator and a developer, which means that you have opportunity to even develop the business much further. So depending on these three, you will choose the right business for yourself. Say, for example, you are just an investor. Then my advice would be that take a FOCO, franchise-owned, company-operated, or a FICO, which where you just invest, you don't operate the business, or it's done by the company itself. There are many examples like that. Zodio is one of the fastest growing franchise, is actually a FOCO, franchise-owned, company-operated. You just invest and Tata Group runs and operates the business. But if you are somebody who's also an operator, then I would always advise that you take a FOFO, franchise-owned, franchise-operated. You not only just put the capital, but you run and operate the business. And if you are actually additionally a developer also, it means that you have a long-term plan on the business, then always choose to be an area franchise or a master franchise, where not only you invest in the business, but you also operate your own outlets and also further develop the brand in the region. And that you can depend on how big the region you want to really do. It can be just a city, or it can be a larger area, or it can be a country license, which can be done. So that's the first evaluation you need to do. And you need to be very serious about what you want to be, and before you even jump on to selecting the business. Once you have done this self-evaluation, then also do another part of self-evaluation, which is I call the 4 fits. This is very important. What you bring in outside money to your business is more important than your capital. So there are 4 fits I call: strategic fit, financial fit, operational fit, and marketing fit. What is that one fitment which you bring in special to business? Say, for example, you have a great real estate. That's very high strategic risk fitment. So you have very good strategic fitment. You have a property which suits certain kind of business. So you have advantage on that. You can be also bringing in your operational capability. You have some experience which you worked in your past industries, which you can extend to the business. So ask about yourself that what are the 4 out of the 4 fits, which is the critical fit you have, which you bring strongly to the business. So once you've done the self-evaluation, go back to selecting your business, and I call the 3 steps. The first step is connecting the 4 dots. The first dot is the industry you choose and why you choose that industry. That's very, very important. Second, the brand you choose in that industry comparing to the other competitor brands. Why you're choosing an X brand over a Y brand, which is their competition. Why do you think so? Why you feel that this brand would give you better sport structure and would have better recall as a brand in your territory. Third dot is connecting your own financial goals. What is your financial goals? And rather, I would say connecting your financial and life goals. Because you need to really see that if you're running this business, what are the things which are happening in the next 5-10 years in your life, and how this business is going to support that. That's very, very important. And the 4th dot you have to connect is your micro market. Which micro market you want to start the business? When you're starting the business, there is a micro competition in that market. You need to understand why this particular brand which you're choosing on would do and perform in that market. So this would be the first stage to qualify. Once you have done that, you go to stage 2 to evaluate this particular brand on 3 different parameters. The first parameter is life of the opportunity. How is the life of this opportunity? And you can maximize over that. Some businesses are for lifetime. Like, for example, you start a K-12 school. I always say, on a lighter note, your grandfather went to the school, is still surviving, right? So it's a very long life of an opportunity. But if you start something which is very concept driven or something like that, it might not have that an opportunity. It might last for 3-5 years. So you need to depend on this life of opportunity. You need to decide your ROI levels. If the life of the opportunity is very high, then you can go for a lower ROI also, return on investment. But if you are starting, say, a nightclub, which you think is going to last for 3-5 years, you need a fantastic ROI because you need to cover your investment and also get your returns on that. So that's the first stage. Second piece is ease of doing business. How easy is to do the business. One time I was called, I will not name it, by one of the largest Indian sweet manufacturer, and they wanted to franchise their brand. So I went to their business. I saw their operations. There were 300 people making Indian sweets. It's so complex as a business to manage. And I told them that this is very difficult to franchise this business because it has so much of complexity. Because you have family run business, you've been doing for 50 years, you can still manage it. But an individual franchisee to manage this kind of skill staff is impossible. So how is the ease of doing business is very, very important part. And third, which is also very important, is that how do you build value in that business? Which means that you build a business for a certain time, and after that, you want to either transfer the business to somebody else or exit the business. Is there a possibility in that? Because I feel that the advantage of investing into an active business over a passive investment is that you can really build value. You can build value and then transfer and sell to somebody else. So find out these three aspects. And the third stage is how you're going to manage your finances. How are you going to manage your finances? Where it is coming from? Are you leveraging too much? If you're leveraging too much, my advice would be don't do that, because cost of capital in India is extremely high. And I feel that this is the biggest problem where our government also has to interfere, because our cost of capital in India is so high that survival of most of the businesses are not maintained. That's why we keep seeing even good businesses fail, because they are over leveraged. They are not able to handle the cost of capital. So manage your finances very well. I call the 60-40 rule. If your investment is, say, 20 lakh rupees, then you need to have maybe another 10 lakh rupees to support that business. So that is how you run and operate the business. Now we'll get started with our legal aspects. So friends, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box and ask in the Q&A box. And I'll also put our hotline number, which Bharat, you can put hotline number where you can also send your questions if you need any information on a specific brand. Franchise India has over 500 plus mandated brands, and we have over 100 international global opportunities available for area and a master franchise. Rather, I'm doing a tour across India in January, where I'm inviting people who are seeking area or a master franchise. So if you are interested to really buy into an area or a master franchise, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to invite you for one of the sessions. Yeah, Bharat, over to you.
Friends, we'll run you through a small
Thanks, Sean.
presentation on the legal clauses. And while Bharat puts the presentation, I would also add that if you look at any relationship and the longevity of any relationship, it is dependent on three stakeholders, which is the franchisee, the operator of the business, the parent company, the franchisor, and also equally the market conditions which it operates within. So the market conditions typically would be your regulatory control, the challenges the industry poses, overall, I would say, inflation versus growth opportunity in that market. The franchisor side includes I would say things like systems, which can be poor systems, undercapitalization, over promises by the company, inadequate marketing, and also it might not be sometimes sync with the market trends or the relevance in the given market. And from the franchisee point of view, it is largely mismatch of expectations, the unwillingness of a franchise partner to keep up with the systems provided by the company, poor locations, and also not maintaining the standard operating processes on which the franchisee has been taught. So in order to execute a good drafted legal agreement, it needs both the stakeholders, the franchisor and the franchisee, to understand that there are some negotiable and certain non-negotiable rules so the business can sustain over a given period of time. So we'll talk about 25 areas which form a part of any franchisor-franchisee agreement. And some of these are the clauses which can also be subject to the format or the business model you've taken. So the franchise agreement, the legal agreement, as we say, has three elementary objectives. The first and foremost, it should be able to cover all the terms and conditions on which both the parties have agreed to. The second, it should take into consideration the IP, the intellectual property that the franchisor provides to a franchisee. And the third is to clarify the obligations of both the parties, which is the responsibilities of both the franchisor and the franchisee. Next slide. So primarily, there are two stakeholders in the agreement. The franchisee is the individual, or it can also be more than one individual or maybe an entity that takes the right to run and operate that business in a given territory. And the franchisor grants him the right to run and operate within the terms of the agreement. And the second stakeholder is the franchisor, the company that owns the business, the brand, and all the related trademarks, SOPs related to that particular business opportunity. So there are 25 important terms of the agreement. We'll quickly take you through these terms in the agreement. And I'll request Gaurav if you want to pick any of...
Sure. So the 25 points, while there are many points, in India, the legal framework is run on old British contract law. It's a contract law which governs the relationship between a franchisor and a franchisee. It's a principal agent kind of a contract. What is written in the contract by default, it becomes a guideline for their obligations on both sides. So you have to really have somebody who's have a firm understanding on contract law. Franchise India has a full legal advisory team which helps our investors who are now seeking to buy a business opportunity. We run through giving a formal advice, but we also tell that you should also engage an independent counsel who can advise you to take that understanding. But we'll give you some 25 points. Franchise fees. Franchise fees is normally termed as an upfront fee for which you get the rights for certain years to run and operate a particular brand. Say, for example, you take a Lakme salon franchise, you will have to give an upfront fee to take a Lakme franchise for a certain territory for a certain period. And this franchise fee can also be applicable after the term finishes for a renewal. So you need to define both initial franchise fees and is there a renewal fee. Sometimes companies don't charge a renewal fee. They do automatic renewal. Sometimes there is a division where they would put the renewal fee. And if this is not mentioned, make sure that it is mentioned in the agreement so that you know your term doesn't end with 5 years or whatever the initial term is. It is automatically renewed for the next year. Royalties. Normally, royalty as a term is used in a service-based franchise, where when you take a service-based franchise, say I take a F&B franchise or a salon franchise or a gym franchise, where I'm rendering services locally, the company would charge a royalty on the top line, which means that your sales is 10 lakh rupees. If the royalty was 6%, they would take 60,000 rupees from you for the brand and the ongoing support which needs to be done. So franchise fees is upfront and the royalties are ongoing on a monthly basis. And royalty also is further divided into two parts. One is a fixed royalty and second can be advertisement levy, which means that they can charge you a marketing fee, which is run on that. Then there is a term called minimum guarantee in FOCO kind of agreements where you're not operating the business. Company can give you a minimum guarantee, but be very careful about companies offering unrealistic minimum guarantees because that's not viable. End of the day, business has to pay for itself. And some young companies, in the interest of growing fast, actually mislead investors and they offer wrong minimum guarantees. We at Franchise India normally don't advise businesses which have unrealistic minimum guarantees because I have seen that they don't last. Initial investment is defined in the whole structure, and please go through in detail that because most of the complaints we get from investors is that what they agreed as an initial investment, their investment went up by 20, 25, 30%, and the business model and the returns changed. Your ROI is dependent on to control your initial investment to the business plan which you've made. Next slide. So letter of intent is something which you sign at the initial days. So it's a LOI is normally signed when you commit to this, and after that, a company would share with you their legal agreement. And once you have seen the legal agreement, you will go and execute that. But all the terms which you do, the commercial terms, are normally captured in the LOI. So management fee is another tool which is used in the management kind of contract businesses. Say you're running a hotel, taking a hotel franchise. So the operator would become, the brand would become an operator and would charge a management fee from you. It's actually charged by the franchisor against their brand and the support which they provide for you. Normally, these kind of fees are used in healthcare, hospitality. A lot of those kind of businesses need management fee. Master franchise unit, multi-unit definition, that's very, very important. So obligations significantly change. Remember what I said when you started. If you're an investor, you are investor plus operator, or you are investor plus operator plus developer, then you need to have more obligations. As your things should change, you have more obligations and more responsibilities and more capabilities to run that. Trademark, obviously, every time you sign any franchise brand, make sure that they have adequate registered trademarks under that category. Sometimes they are registered in a particular category, not in the business of which you're getting in, say you're getting into retail. They need to also register in retail. They might be registered in fashion, but they not be in retail. So make sure that all adequate categories are well protected with you. And it's also part of your larger legal agreement. Now, this is a very important part of the agreement, training and ongoing support. And training also further would define what kind of training, how many hours, man hours, is it on the site, it is on headquarters, who bears the cost? And perpetually after that also, if you need more training, is there a cost involved to that? That's very, very important. Ongoing support, just not keep in the agreement when you're signing an agreement with a franchisee, just not make a simple statement that there will be ongoing support. You need to go into tangible, things which they're going to provide you. That's very, very important. What kind of supply chain? And even if there is some kind of supply chain support, you need to also understand the margins, because the prices would change, inflations would happen, and later people have problems because you don't have a viability of the business. All these things have to be very critically in detail defined in your legal agreement. Controlling stake means that how do you control your business, and what kind of provisions are there in the agreement for you to control that. Advertising obligations, both for you as an investor or a franchisee and for a franchisor, what kind of national marketing they're going to provide, what kind of collateral support they're going to provide, what is social media support they need to provide. All that has to be part of it. Arbitration is advisable for franchisees. Most of the franchisees should go for it. It's a much better way and faster way to resolve any kind of dispute which happens. But sometimes companies would like to have a particular judiciary, and so depending on your convenience, you need to choose either arbitration or a particular judiciary needs to be done. Most of the times, franchisors would like to create their comfort because they're signing many agreements. They would normally sign their own home city or home state, which would become their judiciary. Audit for a franchisor. This is normally a franchisor would keep in the agreement because they would like to do regular audits for your performance, quality, compliances, a lot of other things. It can be financial audit, it can be consumer audit, it can be your business audit, which means depending on the company, they would do that. But you have to be very careful that this cost of audit is not on you. It can only be on you if you are deviating or defaulting on your performance. Normally, this cost is taken care by the franchisor. Termination and exit, this is very, very important. And also, what is the consequences of termination? This is very, very important. If there is a small deviation, you should not be terminated. You should give a cure time. So normally, there is a time to cure where you will get maybe a couple of months to cure that. It should not go directly to termination. But if there's a serious default, say you try to change the brand name or you're trying to source things from outside and things like that, then it will cause termination. But what happens after termination? If you say you are a fashion brand and you terminate it and you're carrying a lot of stock, who cares of that? Would you get time to liquidate your stock, or company would take over that native? So consequences of termination also has to be very clearly done, and there has to be a certain amount of cool-off period after the termination. Normally negotiate that. And after the exit, say tomorrow you want to exit the business. Do you have a right to exit the business? And if you have a right to exit the business, what it means to you? Can you sell the business to somebody else? Can you transfer the business to somebody else? Can you shut the business and start a competing brand? All these are different options. And this all have to be part of your negotiation structure. Terms of renewal, how is the renewal defined? Is there a renewal fee or it is automated? But this is a very, very important term, because you build the business, you build the brand in a particular territory, and after you build it, you'll not lose the rights of using the brand at a certain time. Territory definition, again, very important aspect, because you should protect your territory, because that's a territory which is defined to you. So if you're a retail kind of brand, company will give you normally about 3 to 5 kilometer kind of a radius. But if you are a service brand, it can go even bigger, because you can service much bigger territory, but define that territory very, very clearly. And sometimes the definition of territory also is to be very different. I'll give you an example. Somebody took a area franchise from Franchise India, and he kept NCR, National Capital Region. And later the definition of NCR says it goes on one side in UP to Meerut, on one side in Haryana to Karnal, and one side to Rajasthan. So that NCR region definition was very big, right? And later they had a dispute between the franchisee who took the area franchise and the parent company, because most of them actually never understood what the territory really defines for. So you have to very carefully define your territories. Force majeure is a case where it's a national problem, like COVID happened. A lot of companies extended their terms of the contracts, whosoever had this clause available in the entire thing. Insurance, again, very important aspect. Who's covering the cost of insurance? What all you try to cover in the entire thing? Is it insurance, cost of insurance covered in your business plan? Sometimes it's not covered in your business plan. Like we were doing one big jewelry company, and their financials were extremely tight, but they never cover in their financials. Insurance was not mentioned, but it's very critical. It's a precious jewelry business. You need to have a large cost of insurance on an annual basis, and when you put the cost, their financials were not looking good. So we see that when you see in the PL, see that it covers the insurance component of it.
And also, if I can add, when the company is running franchisee and company operated, and some part of investment is done by the franchisee and some part is done by the company, then this insurance is also split, So some of the projects we do with companies like Reliance and Tata's, the company bring in the inventory and the company takes care of the insurance of the inventory, while the franchise partner take care of all the insurance with respect to fixtures and the capex.
Yeah. So Rajesh Seth has one question that force majeure is normally in the favor of franchisor. Answer is no. Actually, it is favor of both. It's a larger business in the brand. And if for reasons franchisor is not able to give his services or support, obviously then it looks like bending towards the franchisor. But if as a franchisee, you're not able to do your obligation, pay royalties, pay this and that thing, then it's in the favor of franchisee. So how it is defined in the structure is very, very important. And I agree with you, Rajesh, that in COVID, franchisers took a lot of advantage of it. And they shut their businesses, they shut their entire thing, never supported their franchises and used the favor of force majeure. So that's where very, very important how it is defined in your agreement would be the rightfully to whosoever and I think. Ideally, it should favor the business at totality, not just one identity. Next. And friends, you can also ask your questions on the Q&A box, and we'll be happy to take as many questions you have.
Yeah, we are on the next page.
So this is another very important area. Rather, I now coach every single investor that when you start your business, there should be an end point also considered, where you are ready to maybe resell the business or even a franchise that sometimes want to buy back the business. I'll tell you, a lot of companies which are looking for a, say, IPO, they want to consolidate their revenues. And they go back to the franchisee and say, I want to take over your store now. We are doing for one such example in food, where they have about 75 outlets, franchise-run outlets. And now it's backed by a private equity, and private equity is buying that. Subway is another example. Subway now is now taken over by a big private equity fund called Everstone. And Everstone is going and buying every single existing franchisee. And they do valuation for their business, and they take over the business. Because it is not well defined in the indicing, it's not going in the favor of franchises. Because they are not giving, they're giving only replacement value, which means that if you invested 60 lakh rupees, they might give you maybe 70 lakh rupees just because it's performing. But if they're not giving you the value, which is for discounting their incomes or potential incomes. then the valuation can be much, much higher. So be very, very particular that this clause is very well defined in the structure. Tomorrow, even your franchisor comes to you to buy your business, has to be done on the market valuation, right? And you should also have a right to sell the business or transfer the business to somebody else. Eventually, businesses are done to create and build value so that you can encash and unlock value at a certain point in time. So duration of the agreement, again, very important part. We've been discussing that because it's sometimes ignored. People sign up a franchise only for 5 years and you don't know when 5 years finishes. And then you're lost because you hear that a franchisor is not either renewing your term or not extending your thing, or it has a very large renewal cost. So people only negotiate. I see most of the time people come to us at Franchise India. We've done, hundreds of thousands of franchise contract. They're only negotiating the franchise fees and the royalty. I think these are two things which you should least negotiate. Negotiate all the other areas, right? Because franchise fees negotiation means that you are asking for lesser sport, ongoing, starting up sport. Royalties negotiation means that you are asking for lesser sport in your ongoing sport. So I feel that other agree points are much more critical for you to negotiate. Imagine somebody asked you, my franchise fees is 10 lakh rupees. And you said, okay, I'm fine with 10 lakh rupees, but I need a term of 15 years, or I need a term of 20 years. Just in the interest of negotiation, they agree on that. You actually took a much bigger term than just negotiating the upfront fee. So duration of agreement is very important. Quality control, supplies and stocks, again, very important. What margins franchisor is going to keep, define those transfer margins, very, very important. Because later, sometimes they change the margins because they want to make more profit, your business suffers. So you need to really define all these things very carefully. Default, damages, complaint litigation, limitations, all these are also very, very important. And normally, I would always say any kind of default or a damages should have a time to cure. Because sometimes it is ignorance. You don't knew that what was to be done at a time. And that ignorance should not become a default structure, or you are asked to pay a lot of damages. And even if there is a percentage of damage or some liability written in that, cap it. Don't put it open. You need to cap it at a certain percentage. So that should be defined in the agreement. Any other questions, friends, you have, you please ask in the Q&A box. We'll be happy to take it. Another question Rajesh has, what happens if the franchisor brand is bought over by somebody else? How does it impact me as a franchisee, and what are my rights? Yeah, very, very important point. This people don't sometimes ask even. So there is an assignment rights. Sometimes there is a assignment rights in the agreement where franchisor can sell his business to somebody else, like what happened in Subway. They just assigned all the franchises to the new company. And which means the franchisee had no say in doing that. Most of the cases, this would be the case, especially with large companies. They will not give the right to a franchisee to give approval. Otherwise, impossible. They cannot sell the company. They cannot list the company. They always have to go back to franchisees for approval. But given this situation also, you can put some structure in that piece which can benefit you. Which means that if this happens, you have a choice to continue, not continue. You have a choice to even sell that business to somebody else. You have a choice to even sell the business back to a franchisor. So you can also put some kind of a structure, and this can also be used for taking a reciprocal rights with you to do the same thing. Non-compete, again, is a very, very, very complex structure. When you take a franchise and for reasons you run, most of the franchisors, good franchisors would like to keep a non-compete. It becomes trickier when you have your own property. Say you have a great property on Linking Road, Bandra, and you give it to a fashion brand. It's a prime property. You will not like to agree on non-compete because tomorrow, if this franchise doesn't run, you would like to bring another fashion brand to run there. So it will not be an entire thing. But if this property was not yours and you were just renting it out, you can sign a non-compete. So non-compete can be complex for strategic property owners because they have to, the property is suitable for some kind of similar kind of businesses. So you cannot sign non-compete on that. Indemnification, I think.
Also, sometimes companies impose non-compete not only during the term of the agreement, but also post the agreement for maybe an year or two. Yes.
Yeah. Indemnify both sides. I mean, it should be, again, reciprocal agreement. It should be done for this. Justification, it's very important where you choose. Normally, it is the franchisor would like to keep their own head office location because it's a location for comfort for them. And it is becomes sometimes not so comfort for potential franchises. Yeah, but is there another slides?
This covers the 25.
Okay, this covers the 25 points. While there are many points which are there in legal agreements, I would certainly advise go through a good consultant. Franchise India has over 500 consultants in 90 plus cities, which advise people on how to choose the right brand, how to calculate your right ROI, how to negotiate the right contract, and then make a decision. We call the 3-stage process. One is information, evaluation, and negotiation. Information, which means that you will get hundreds of brands information, how they operate, what is the business model, what is their financial model, what kind of sport they bring in, what is the past performance of their franchisees, all that information will come. Evaluation, which I gave you the 4 stages, how you evaluate a right opportunity, you do self-assessment, and also evaluate an opportunity on their performance. And then the third part is negotiation, how you negotiate the right legal contract. Over to you, Sonia, for your last comments.
I think there's another important area, especially if you choose to take a cluster franchise, area franchise, or a city franchise. There is also minimum rollout which a franchise partner has to execute. And that rollout is defined by timelines of, say, the first 6 months or first year or second year. And that is something which also has to be clearly understood. Most of the companies give you enough time to first roll out your first location, make that successful, and subsequently launch the second one. So if you're an area franchisee city, then rollout in your territory and the timelines attached to it also becomes very important. So thank you, friends, for coming on this webinar today. We wish you once again and your families a very happy new year. You can reach out to us on the email ID we have sent to you and also the hotline number for any of the information that you seek. If you're already negotiating any agreement with any company, franchisor, you can also let us know. If you want us to participate, we'll be happy to help you in the process of signing up with any company if you already are. So thank you once again, friends. Have a great day and a year ahead. Bharat, over to you.
Thanks so much, ma'am, and Gaurav sir, for the last 3 days has been a very, a complete learning. I mean, lots of new things we actually learned. And viewers, in case if you would like to get in touch with us for any such kind of query or anything that we learned last 3 days, of course, you can get in touch with on our hotline number, 9717683838, or you can also write to us at feedback@franchiseindia.in. So that's it for the day. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining. And I was really thankful to both our, seniors, Gaurav sir and Sonia ma'am, for being available for this webinar and sharing the lots of insights about choosing the right kind of business. That's it all for the day. Happy New Year on behalf of Franchise India Group.
Happy New Year. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.